I really love the saying of basically like action breeds confidence. And the idea behind it is just force yourself to do it a few times and it does start to feel easier. So I think that it's something where remind yourself, like, I am a professional, or remind yourself that this is what I should be doing. And then the more you do it, the easier it gets.
I think that comes down to process. The more you know your process, the more you're going to stick with that, the more you're going to build your confidence. So it just becomes natural time after time. Welcome to the Travel Agent Guide, the podcast pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to be a travel agent. We're talking real life, the challenges, the wins, the money, the mistakes, and the growth. Whether you've been in the travel industry for years or are new to it, we're in this together, and you're exactly where you need to be. All right. Today, I'm so excited to talk about this topic, overcoming imposter syndrome in the travel industry. It's something that I hear of often, so I want to dive right in. I actually did a webinar a few weeks ago on this, so I'm excited to loop in Bird and kind of get her thoughts on this as we dive in, right? So the first thing is what imposter syndrome really looks like, and what is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome, I guess the best way to put it, it really is a psychological experience where you start to doubt your abilities and you have this immense fear of being exposed as a fraud. I think that's kind of the best way to put it. And naturally, I think coming into any type of job and starting something new, most people are going to feel this. I'm assuming, Bird, you have felt imposter syndrome over the years.
Oh my gosh, how many times have you guys been sitting there and you're about to do a proposal and you're like, I really don't know enough about Madagascar to try to pretend to be the expert here, right? Like I felt it in every time I ever planned a proposal. For like the first time I planned in that country, it was always just a little bit of like, why are these people trusting me? Like I didn't feel like I was truly the expert. I didn't feel like I was as knowledgeable as I should be. And no matter like the level of research I do, which you know me, like I'm going to research something for 800 hours because it's my favorite thing to do.
Mhm.
You still just don't feel like you're truly the expert. But at the end of the day, you are. And I think every advisor out there can relate to that.
Yeah. And I think it's good for people to understand that even you and I feel imposter syndrome and it still happens, right? I think we'll kind of dive in about how repetition and action truly changes your mindset with imposter syndrome. But it's crazy. Like I just go back and forth with all the different examples. And I hear most often is how do I get on a consultation call, right? How do I get onto a Zoom call? I've never done a Zoom call live with somebody before. How do you get over that fear of just getting on the call? When you first started coming into, the industry, Bird, I know Zoom and video calls are kind of, it's you, it's who you are in your business. So how do you get over that initial fear of just getting on that call?
My favorite thing to say is just assume the Zoom. Like I don't ask people, do you want to get on a video call? I say like, hey, do you have a quick minute to chat more about your trip? And they say, yeah, I can talk at 4. And I say, great. And then I just send them an invite. Like I don't ask about it because I don't want them to be fearful either. And like, I think one of the things we all forget is the pandemic did give us a gift. Like it gave us a gift that video calls are now more just like obvious to everybody and it's a lot easier. And like, I mean, my grandma gets on video calls with me now, like that would have never happened pre-pandemic. But the fear of getting in it is because a lot of people will be on a regular phone call and somebody asks them a question and they Google it right then, right? And they BS their way through the answer. And I think there's a couple things that we need to remember as advisors is we don't necessarily have to be the expert on everything. We can say like, I'm going to need to look more into this, but I cannot wait to dig into it. Or we can say like, look, I'm going to bring in one of my partners at the tourism board, which is the word I use for DMCs. But the clients don't know what a DMC is. I'm going to bring in one of my partners that specializes that's in country that's going to talk to us more about this because I want to make sure you're getting the best advice possible, right? Like it's okay if they call you out on not knowing anything. Like there's no assumption. We're just humans. We should not know everything in the world.
Yeah, they're hiring you to figure out the answer and present the correct answer to them, not to know every location in the world. It's just not possible. Regardless of who you are, I don't care what you say. It's not possible. One of the things I hear very often is, well, what do I do if somebody puts me on the spot and they ask me if I've traveled to this destination? And I think that is, puts a lot of fear in advisors of, okay, this is proving I'm a fraud. I haven't actually been to Italy. How am I going to sit here and convince somebody that I'm able to put together their trip. The best advice that I can give is, pivot around it. If somebody comes out and tells you, I wouldn't lie to them. I wouldn't say, yeah, I spend my summers in Italy. Don't do that. I think definitely just go into it with a pivot and say, listen, Italy, I have not been to, unfortunately. It's on my list for hopefully next year, this year, and highlight the trip you're going to this year. This year, I'm actually doing Germany and spending some time in Bavaria, or whatever that looks like, to let them know you're still traveling, but maybe you didn't make it to Italy yet, but that's okay. And tell them, hey, I've booked dozens of trips to Italy and my clients are very happy. And I have partners, on the ground in Italy. So I'm very confident in booking this trip for you. I was going to say, has somebody put you on the spot with that before?
Well, so I was gonna add to that because absolutely, I am not a sand and sun person. I think sand is nasty. I'm sorry, everybody. I know half the people probably just shut this podcast off. It's not for me. So in 2021, when we couldn't go to Europe and we were stuck in the Caribbean, and it's the only thing we can sell. Guess what I figured out how to sell? Sand and sun, right? So I have literally planned millions of dollars at this point to St. Lucia, never stepped foot on the island, never really intend to, if I'm going to be honest. Maybe I'll
I
end up.
thought you have been to St. Lucia. So that just proves out of all this time I've counted on you to help me with St. Lucia, I could have sworn you've been to St. Lucia 4 times. That is hilarious.
I feel like I could draw the entire island I feel like I know it like the back of my hand, right? Because I loved selling it and I would just continuously dig and learn more about it. So here's what I would want to say about, have you been there before? Number one, if you have a solid team before you, like if any of our Saba travel agents are listening, this is how you respond to that. I have not, but several people on my team have. So I can't wait to ask them about this after and make sure that I've got all the greatest details. Like lean on the team for that kind of thing, because there's no reason, like for us, we use Teams as our chat system. So you just go into the chat system and say like, hey, they're looking for this villa in Tuscany. Can someone point me in the right direction? And I guarantee you're going to get a ton of answers. So start there with a team if you have a team that you can rely on. If not, I want to go back to the DMC thing for a minute, because you can use them a couple different ways. Like if the client tells you beforehand, we're interested in Sri Lanka, and you're like, girl, I don't have a damn clue what I'm doing in Sri Lanka. Like you can have a DMC get on a call with you. There's nothing wrong with asking them to do that. And most of them will absolutely get on a video call. They answer the specifics and you explain to the client like, look, my job is to know people in every country around the world that can create the best travel experiences for you. But I'm not the best expert when it comes to Sri Lanka specifically. So I asked one of my partners to join me on the call. That's it. You're still the needed because you're the point of contact, that you're the connector, right? And you're still excited and learning alongside them, right? And you're connecting them to the right person. You're still involved. Like I think people hesitate too much about using those tools that are absolutely available to us. They feel like, oh, well, my client's going to think I don't know, or my client's going to think like, well, why don't I just work with them directly? You know why? Because their next trip, they're not going back to Sri Lanka. They're going to go somewhere else and they need you and they need the hand holding. So that's my advice there.
Yeah, beautifully put. I agree. I think you just lean on the industry as a whole, your partnerships, and I have never had somebody come back to me and say, oh, well, too bad you haven't been to Croatia, but your partners are all there and they haven't booked me. In fact, anyone who's asked me, I've been able to pivot in a way they didn't care and they just knew I was the expert to help them with their trip. So it's all in how you word yourself and how you present yourself. And I think the confidence piece comes down to action, right? So yeah, of course, I've been kind of that in the moment, not sure of what to say or do, but fake it until you make it. You know what I mean? I think you go out there and you just say what you can and in that moment, but also be real about it, right? Don't lie to your clients. Like just pivot in whatever way makes sense.
I do love that piece. And I do want to just highlight for a second that don't lie to your clients.
Yeah.
I am a person that has been guilty of omitting things in the past if they did not reflect positive on me. So it's something that I am actively working on. And I think what I have learned more than anything is like, eventually it's going to come out. So you may as well just be like upfront and honest about it, because, okay, this conversation, you tell them like, yeah, I summer in Italy. I know all about it. Right. And then 2 years later, they ask something about like, oh, where exactly do you summer? And you've completely forgotten. You've moved on from that conversation and it just kind of exposes you, and they may not call you out. They may be like, no, she definitely told me she summered in Italy, right? And they may not call you out in the moment, but they're not gonna trust you anymore. And I have to be honest, of the things that we have as travel advisors, trust is the most important, the most valuable asset we can have. So don't break it. Just be honest.
Yeah, I love that. Exactly. Perfect way to approach it. When I start thinking about imposter syndrome and other ways it kind of shows up in the industry, one of the things I would say, and I know we often tell advisors, like any advisor coming on with Sava, we tell them about week 2-ish, it's time to reach out to your network. It's time to post a video on social media and say, hey, I'm here for it. This is me. I'm a travel advisor now. Go into it with kind of this confidence to do it. And I think imposter syndrome gets in the way of people actually putting themselves out there at the beginning, because naturally they're like, I don't know anything. What if all of a sudden I'm going to get flooded with 100 requests, which is not going to happen, right? But
Yeah,
if it does happen, like, okay, let's go. And again, lean on your team to help you with what that looks like. But what do you say, Bird, to travel advisors who truly feel like, okay, I'm not ready to make this leap yet. I'm not ready to put myself out there.
Okay, so I love the idea of posting a video as soon as you jump into the industry. I'm obsessed with it. And I feel very strongly for a couple of different reasons. Number one, like, look at all the algorithms. They post videos way more than posts. So, like, you want the most people to see what you're doing. That's what you need to be doing. So, if you're an advisor that's already in this industry, which if you're listening to this podcast, you are, then what you would be doing is still posting those videos. And people say, I don't want to post a video of me, or I don't like the way I look on video, or I don't like the way I sound on video. I have to be honest with you. That's the way you look and sound in real life. And people love you anyway. It's okay, right? Like however you look on video is just that's how we look, and we need to be okay with that. But the thing that I want to say about posting for the very first time, most people kind of take a step back and say like, no, I don't want to do it, or I'm worried about getting a lead that I wasn't prepared for, I think. So it's not even if it's the first time. If you're experienced and you're posting a video the first time, I'm worried about getting a lead I don't want or I don't know how to do. I've never once seen a post on any social media travel agent Facebook group where an advisor says, hey, I have a lead for X and I'm looking for someone in that's an expert in that area to give this lead to, where you didn't have 500,000 people comment on it, right? At Sava Travel, one of our chat networks is just hot leads, and it's for that purpose. So if someone comments and says, I want to go to Japan, and you're like, oh, hell no, I'm way in over my head in Japan, give it to someone that is the expert. And you can even say like, I'm going to give it to you, but I want $100 referral fee or a $200 referral fee or whatever it is you want. 99% of the time, that's not going to be a problem for people. So I would say don't let the fear of the unwanted result hold you back. Instead, put yourself out there and hope and ask for the right thing that you want, right? Say like, I want you to know I'm a travel agent. I specialize specifically in Europe, love doing international trips, reach out, right? Like that's the ask that you want to make.
Yeah, that's perfectly said. You know, with social media, I think a lot of advisors tend to get fearful, right? They see what is going on around them, how other travel agents maybe post daily and are doing all these crazy TikToks and stories. And how can I ever compete with that? And I think you're the one who told me this, Bird, or is somebody at Travel Birds, right? Is how we dive into it. Listen, I could go post a story right now and maybe I get 10 people who watch it. You know what? Yeah. At the end of the day, it was 10 people more that saw it that didn't see it before you did it, right? And I think that's the reality of it. It takes, consistency and sticking with it and continuing with it before you build.
Let's keep playing on that topic, because I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't know what to post though. Like, what do I post? I think the easiest thing you can do is just go to travelweekly.com and whatever the headline is, talk about that. So this week, and I know this won't post until next week, but this week, Spirit Airlines shut down. Do a 30-second, hey, there's a reason I don't like booking my clients on budget airlines. There's a lot of risks to be taken. They usually only go to routes once a week. You can see from Spirit Airlines and rebook, all those people are having to rebook right now and the prices are way higher. I personally keep all my clients on the main lines, whatever it is. Who cares what you want to say about it? Just pick the topic and say something about it. It's 30 seconds. This shouldn't be like a big ask.
Yeah, the educational posts like that are, positioning yourself as the expert. You're not looking for the sales. You're not highlighting a destination. You're really going to your social media with value, whether it's your personal page or your Facebook group, whatever that looks like. I always recommend a Facebook group where you can just keep everything tidy. People know where to go to find all the information about travel, right? Yeah. So I think that obviously social media is always going to be a place where imposter syndrome is pretty high for a lot of people.
I'll challenge you on the Facebook group just for a second.
Okay.
The only reason I'm going to is because especially if you're like kind of newish to the industry, you're going to have the most people that know you on your normal personal channel. So while I don't think a Facebook group's a bad idea, I just wouldn't choose it if it's an either or in your opinion. So if you're not going to also post to your personal networks, I think people think a lot like, oh, well, I don't want to annoy people with my travel stuff, or I don't want to overwhelm people with my travel stuff. And if you're thinking that, you just don't understand how the algorithms work. They're not going to allow you to annoy your friends, because if your friends aren't engaging with your post, then your post won't show up as often to them. So let's say you post about Croatia 3 times in a week. The algorithms are going to understand what you're posting about. And if it didn't resonate the first time, the second 2 don't make it to that friend. So if you're like, oh, I'm going to annoy my network, that's not your job. That's the algorithm's job. You need to post, and you're going to have the most people following you on your regular personal channel. So all these people that like, oh, I started a new Instagram account for this. Again, I don't think it's bad if you're somebody that's going to post like every single day or multiple times a day. But if you're somebody that's posting once a week about travel, twice a week about travel even, do that on your personal pages. The algorithms will take care of everything else.
Not only that, I mean, with personal pages, you can post a story. I can't go to my Facebook group and post stories. I do love having my story go constantly with whatever that information looks like weekly or daily, to be honest. I know some travel advisors have their story going all the time. I know some travel advisors save all their pictures so it looks like they're traveling all the time, but maybe they only did 2 or 3 trips a year, right? And I've had people text me like, where are you going to now? I'm like, I'm home behind my computer working. So yeah. There's definitely a way to do it that it just, for your audience, you're presenting yourself as a true expert.
I will also say I never post while I'm actually traveling. I wait until I get home so I can put some intentionality behind it and put the time. When I'm in Italy, I'm not trying to spend time on Instagram. Like that's the last thing I want to be doing while I'm traveling. So you also don't need to feel like, oh, well, I'm on vacation. I don't want to do this. Just take a bunch of pictures and do it later. It doesn't matter. And I always do like day 1 of my trip. It doesn't mean I'm there right now. Now, I will say every now and then it'll get me because someone will message me and be like, oh, I'm in Rome right now too. Let's meet up. And I'm like, oh, I was in Rome last week. Love you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, which is a great point. I mean, I know some advisors who like to do it while traveling. For me, I kind of am, once I get home, I'm back to the grind. Then I'll start forgetting. Then weeks go by and I'm like, oh, crap, I never got to day 4 of Ireland, right? And I don't know. So definitely do it however it works for you. But also, I find time to calendar block for social media all the time, a couple times a week. So making sure you're getting out there and just don't feel like a fraud. It's your business. You're starting this brand new. You have to start somewhere, right? All right. So a couple other things that I kind of see, Bird, is really one is training. I think a lot of advisors dive deep into training themselves on destination trainings, on trainings with suppliers, and they just go down this rabbit hole of hours and hours and hours worth of training, which I think in the beginning to fill up some time gaps, it's great, but I think you should be putting your time more towards like networking and getting out of there versus spending all this time with trainings. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like to tell people wait to do the training until you have the lead. The time should be spent on getting out of your house and meeting people and putting yourself out there into the world versus, no, I think you should do some baseline training. So at Sava Travel, we've got a handful of videos and it teaches you the basics about how to get paid, what commission is, the different main vendors that we use and stuff like that. But if it comes to, am I going to spend, so for instance, the Princess Cruise training, my BDM told me just the other day, it is a 26-hour training if you go through all the different levels.
Really?
If you're spending that time and you don't have a lead for Princess Cruises, you've lost your mind. Like, it's just, I would rather you spending your time out there and doing something to like promote yourself versus getting bogged down. I met an agent one time, and this was 2021. So take it for what it is, because this is early on and there wasn't a lot of opportunity out there. But she was kind of a bit braggadocious about the fact that she had done 118 destination trainings that year. And I couldn't help but be like, and how many trips did you sell? And I would never call anyone out by name, but let's just say it was not 118 trips, to say the least, right? And what she had done was she had used learning, which is very important in this role, but can be used as busy work. She created a space for learning, turned it into busy work, and did the busy work to feel busy and feel productive without actually ever being productive. Had she instead done 5 of those trainings, but then done a bunch of social media posts about, this is what I learned on the training about Costa Rica, and then I learned this other fun fact about this training about Croatia, whatever it looks like, had she done that instead and been more purposeful with her time, instead of just feeling busy for the sake of busy. And I think that's what a lot of people do with those vendor trainings.
Agreed. I don't know. Myself personally, I'm not going to retain all the information on 118 destinations.
Yes.
It's not going to be there. It's going to be me diving in. And when I get to proposing and even consultation, like I'll do let's do a little education beforehand. So I go in with some, at least knowing logistics and destinations and cities, right? If I don't do that, that would just be silly. But I'm not going to do a 24-hour training prior, because the reality is it's just not worth my time. I'll spend that 24 hours building clients and getting clients to come in the door. So yeah, I think that's kind of, people hide themselves behind in the training to hope that that brings value to their business, when in reality, you're going to do way better off getting out of your house and talking to people and networking and bringing in the leads before you dive deep into the destinations.
1,000%. And I want to go back to the consultation for a second.
Yeah.
Because you kind of mentioned, like, you feel this imposter syndrome if you don't know the destination very well when you're in the consultation. They will typically give you a destination before you get on the phone call. If not, there's no reason you can't ask for it, right? Like, schedule the call first. That's the most important thing. Figure out when you're going to talk to this person. But once you've done that, be like, can you tell me a little bit about the trip so I can come prepared? And I just take 15 minutes and do the standard Googling, like, when's the best time to travel there? What's the main airports? What do I need to know about? And I'll even go to AI and say, I'm a travel agent, but I've never planned a trip to this. I'm about to have my first consultation about this country. Tell me the main facts that I need to know before I go into it. Oh my gosh, it takes 14 seconds to type that. And then I get everything I need, I digest it, and I jump right into the consultation. So if your imposter syndrome is because you feel like, well, I just don't know, I'm not really the expert, do what you can to feed yourself the talking points that you need to come across confident. Because there is an aspect of this that is fake it till you make it. And that's fine. You can come across confident until you know the ask from the client. Once you get the ask from the client, you can dive in and do the research that will actually produce a really well-rounded trip. You can't forget that piece. You can't just fake it and then not do the research.
Beautifully said. And on your consultation, have the ChatGPT pulled up to the left and your client on the video in front of you, and have it there to reference, and you'll be completely fine. I promise you'll be fine. Yeah, I love that. Another thing too that I really want to touch on is kind of where imposter syndrome plays a role is in charging fees, right? Having that confidence to charge fees to clients, but not only that, having that confidence to not sell a deal trip, right? To not be like, oh, well, I'm going to get you the best deal here. And, I don't know, when I dive into it, I think, okay, you need to have that confidence. You need to know your value going into this, which I think is natural for some people versus others. But typically, how do you see that? Has that affected you at all, Bird? Like in the beginning, did it? Or what did it take for you to get out of that?
Oh, I still get nervous about fees. It just makes me sick to my stomach. So fees, I feel very strongly with, and we coach on, a fee should be pitched at the end of the consultation. And the reason for that is simply so you can build trust with the client. Because if you're going to go in and charge a $300 fee, a $400 fee, a $500 fee, you need to be worth $500. And you can't know that from an email exchange at the end of the day. If all of you are balking at a $500 fee, remember, Haley and I mostly do FIT to Europe, and there's like 17 bookings per trip, right? We fully customize everything ourselves. So it's a very different experience than, yeah, you're probably not charging $500 to book a Carnival cruise. Those are different. But if you're doing it, you have to build the trust with the client. Through that, that's where that pitching the fee, the confidence is going to come. What I would say is I really love the saying of basically like action breeds confidence. And the idea behind it is just force yourself to do it a few times. And it does start to feel easier. I was joking that I get so nervous about pitching a fee now. And I think now the reason I do is because it's people I know really well. There's rando internet lead, give that to me all day. I'll pitch that guy $1,000. But like, best friend that I saw at dinner last night, it feels awkward to be like, hey, Caroline, you owe me $300. Like, it just feels uncomfortable. So I think that it's something where remind yourself, like, I am a professional, remind yourself that this is what I should be doing. And then the more you do it, the easier it gets. I mean, that's the same with everything in life, right? The first time you ride a bike, it wasn't easy.
Right. I think that comes down to process and, another podcast for process and how you start it but don't change your process for anyone. And the more you know your process, the more you're going to stick with that, the more you're going to build your confidence. So it just becomes natural time after time. I think for, budget selling, people again get this feeling of fraud, or I just want the sale, but maybe I'm not worthy to try to add on $500 worth of commissions on this Caribbean package. I need to go in at it with a lower price to get the sale. Just, my biggest remind to you is how much work you're actually going to do in this trip, right? It doesn't seem like a lot of work right now, but once you book it, you have no idea how needy that client's going to be. I just had an advisor tell me that they had a client text them on a Saturday at like 7 a.m. when their trip's traveling in 4 months to see if they had towels on their cruise ship. True story. True story. So these things will definitely happen, and, pay yourself, right? So I think not being afraid to pay yourself, putting your value out there, evaluating a package that you're selling and making sure the bottom line is there. That comes with confidence and obviously time and repetition, but it's there, right, Bird? Everybody should value it.
I want to validate, because there are agents out there that say, I'll get you the lowest price no matter what. Send me whatever quote you have and I'm going to beat it. That is a business model.
Yeah.
That is a business model. Those people can sell millions, and I'm not trying to belittle that. It is not the business model that makes our industry respected at the end of the day. Hence why I really push hard for my advisors not to lean in that direction. When somebody says, are you going to get me the cheapest price? My response is very clear to them. My job is not to get you the rock bottom cheapest price ever. If you would like that, you should go to Costco, because that is where you're going to get that. My job is to make sure you have the best possible experience within your budget. So I'm going to make sure that you find value in every single hotel stay, every single tour we book, every single transfer. It's going to be the most valuable for what you have. It's why I also ask for kind of a range in the budget. Look, I'm going to create a trip at the bottom of your range, and you could absolutely go with it. But if you have some flexibility, I want to show you where I would spend more money to invest, right? I think a lot of people think from their own pocketbook. So for instance, like I'm never going to spend 30 grand on a trip. Like I just wouldn't. It's not who I am. It's not where I would put my money. My husband and I are very frugal people. We absolutely could afford to spend 30 grand on a trip. It would not be a worry, but it's just not who I am. But if I sold like I would sell out of my pocketbook, if I sold like I was selling to me, I would never make any money in this industry, right? I book $30,000 trips all the time. And I have to remind myself, like, no, that is what they are wanting to invest their money in. That is what they're wanting to spend it on. So I need to respect the ask and I need to spend it, right? So again, those are two very different clients, because I'm sure the $30,000 trip is not asking for the rock bottom price. But if you do have someone that is, I would say stick to your guns and make sure they understand, just reiterate your value. My value is in the research. My value is finding the best options. My value is saving you time and also finding the best possible solution for what you want to experience.
Exactly. Right. Highlight all the things you're going to do for them so they don't have to worry about it anymore. And then they're not going to question the couple $100 difference, right? I think that's what it comes down to.
And don't be scared to let someone go. That's don't be scared to fire a client. Don't be scared to encourage them to use Costco. Like I could care if
Yeah,
you're
I've
using
done it.
Costco, we were not going to be friends anyway. Like let's be honest. That's not my clients.
Yeah, these are the clients who are already coming at you with, hey, I have Marriott points, or hey, I want to use my Southwest Sky Miles, or whatever they are. And immediately it is, hey, there's not much I can do for you here. Go, book through your travel points. There's that. So yeah, I think those are kind of important to highlight. I think with the bigger budget clients, this is another, oh, I get so scared. Like, am I a fraud? I don't know how to sell a $50,000 trip. What do I do? Right. I've seen that happen. I remember my first big budget trip. I think it was 20 grand. This was back in 2020. It was $20,000 trip. To me, that was like, oh my God, people spend 20 grand on traveling. And I really couldn't believe it. I was like, all right, so we're doing this. And it's funny because one of the things I think about my early on imposter syndrome, Bert, do you remember when I wouldn't touch Europe?
Oh
And
yes.
yeah. So this is a true story. I came into the industry, fully, hey, I'm doing Caribbean. Everybody in Boston wants to fly to the Caribbean in the winter. We hate the winter. And that's truly what I thought my business model was going to be. And Bird kept saying to me, well, Haley, when are you going to when are you going to look at Europe? Like, don't give up a Europe lead. When are you going to dive in? And I'm like, I don't know Europe. I've never been to Europe. I don't feel like I'm the right person to sell Europe. Finally, she gave me enough courage. I got a lead, right? And I went in and it was that $20,000 lead. And I'm like, okay, well, this is a lot different than the $4,000 Jamaica lead. And yeah, I went at it. I connected with, destination expert on Italy and Greece, and they helped me build out the trip. And I spent so much time just putting together my consultation, running through a proposal mock with myself a few times. So I felt really good about it. And that was it. I closed the deal. They were in love with it and it was great. And that to me was like, okay, what have I been wasting this last year for? Like, why did I do this? But you truly have to get there to know it, to understand it before it changes. At that point, I started selling Europe almost exclusively. And I still never have been to Europe. Well, I have since, right? But the first couple of years, I never went to Europe. This was the biggest fake it until you make it for me. It's what I did. And it's just how I positioned myself with the confidence, and it worked out good. So,
Well, and I would commend you. I really would, because I think you did a really good job with clients over the years. I mean, Haley was literally selling like 1.5 million in travel almost exclusively to Europe for multiple years before she ever made it happen. She was a little kiddo at home. So it was she could just pick up and go run off to Europe for a while. And it was just very interesting because I think even on our team, didn't really understand that about her, about like, no, what she did was she took the time and put in the work and did a shit ton of research. So she felt really confident in Italy before ever going there. So she felt really confident in Greece before ever going there. And I think that's what advisors forget very often. I'm not discounting actually experiencing it yourself. I think that's extremely important. But if you are in a life position where that's not an option for you, I don't think that needs to breed imposter syndrome. I think instead, you need to put in the work to create your own confidence. No. I've spent 10 hours on this proposal. Like, it's amazing. And I now know everything there is to know about Rome, right? Whatever it is. Like, yeah, you might have to spend more time because you haven't been there, but it's worth the time and effort to learn it. So don't let that hold you back. Don't let that get in your head.
yeah. And the one thing I hear I've heard this kind of feedback, the fake it till you make it a few times. Like, I heard another advisor who says, fake it till you make it. Like, why would I do that? That's just not the right thing to do. And I'm like, I think you're misunderstanding the actual phrase of fake it until you make it. It's not pretending to know things that you actually do. It means you're acting with courage before you actually feel confident, right? I think it's fake it till you make it. It's, hey, I'm going to go into this confident. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to make it sound good. People are going to love me, versus me just pretending. I don't think faking until you make it's pretending. I was never once pretending. It's what I wanted. I wanted to build my business. I wanted to get to Europe. I wanted to sell these trips. So that was never kind of a question for me. I had to throw that out there because I've heard a little feedback on that fake it till you make it phrase before.
Beautifully put. I do agree with that.
Yeah. So I kind of have thought about some framework, right? And how to actually overcome imposter syndrome. Some of the framework that I think about is taking action, right? How action actually creates confidence. So when we think of the proposal, when we think of the consultation and getting on the Zoom call, when we think about sending out a quote, the reality is until you make those changes and you create that action and you're confident with the change, then it's going to get you out of that imposter syndrome. It's going to get you to where you need to be to feel really good about it. So get on the consult 5, 6, 8 times and get on that Zoom call. Don't be afraid to. And that's how it's going to change. That's how you're going to feel good about it. Same with the quotes. Add a couple $100 in commissions, sell yourself and your value. See if it changes. If you get 5 quotes in, then you notice you're not selling it, something is going on, you need to pivot, but you have to create that action to change it to get better. Another thing is it's not going to happen overnight, right? You're not going to be able to wake up tomorrow and have all this confidence just radiating off of you and you're good to go. You have to put in the time to make the changes and feel good about it. Is that kind of what you think, Bird, right? Action?
Yeah, I would say there's 2 big steps you can take in that action mindset. One of them, I don't want to discount how powerful an affirmation can be. And if it's just every time I sit down at my computer, I say, I'm an agent, I'm a travel advisor that sells over $1 million a year specifically to Europe. Whatever that affirmation is, there's a real power in saying it out loud. And if saying it out loud feels silly to you and you're not there yet, write it down. Don't type it, write it down. There's a huge connection between the physicality of holding a pen and writing something and the thought connecting back to your brain. So whatever that affirmation is can actually really help that a lot. And second, I would say invest in yourself. Like coaching is so important. I absolutely will never not have a coach because it surprises me. You would think like after having different coaches over the last decade, I should be coached up at this point, right? I should be coached. I should be there. That's just not how it works, right? Because you evolve and you hit a new level. And now the coach, you might need a different coach over the years, but I think it's really important to work with someone. So if you are feeling really stressed about imposter syndrome, you can either take it to a coach or you could take it to a therapist because it could also have to do with other underlying things. But I'm going to be honest, you can't always do it yourself. You can't just bootstrap this one. And that investment you make in yourself will pay off tenfold. I will tell you, there is not 1 year that I couldn't point to something one of my coaches said that made me make that much money that I owed them or much, much more. Usually there was always a decision I made because of a conversation with them that ended up increasing my net worth at the end of the day. Invest in yourself. It's important.
I love that. Yes, we all need to invest ourselves. Coaching was everything for me. It just held me accountable. It gave me that confidence. I had somebody to go back and say, hey, I'm so nervous for this $20,000 trip. After that, after a conversation, I was able to pivot after our call and make it happen. So I agree. Coaching is everything in this industry. Get out there and do it. I think another thing a lot of us see often is our new advisors is making mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. Most mistakes can be fixed. So keep that in mind, right? But that holds a lot of people back from not booking the air or doing these things because they don't want to deal with the mistake if they make it. So again, just do it and see what happens. And you may surprise yourself, right? When it goes smooth, you're going to come back with this confidence and be ready to rock and say, okay, that wasn't so bad after all. And I made more money. Yay, right?
Oh, I love that. Shameless plug. Also have somebody check your trips before they depart. It just makes you feel so much better at the end of the day. And it was a huge reason why we started Sava Travel. I was like, there should be a pre-departure team for every advisor everywhere in the world. Like it shouldn't just be your eyes on something because you are going to make mistakes. Like you can be as scared as you want of it. Doesn't matter. It's going to happen. So I love that Haley said, don't be scared because you shouldn't. It's going to happen, but create a safety net for yourself. I think it's one of the most important things you can do in this industry.
Yeah, perfectly said. I used to be so terrified to book the air. Like I was like, what if I mess up and spell the name wrong? Then we're screwed and we're going to lose so much money. And you call the airline, you get it fixed. Sometimes there is a fee, right? But I honestly, knock on wood, I've never encountered an airline saying, hey, you owe me $200 for a change fee. If you're like, hey, I'm a travel agent, I screwed up, I need your help, they're usually like, I got you, right? Don't worry about it. For the most part, that's what I've encountered. I'm curious to hear from other advisors what that sounds like.
I had it once where she actually tried to charge me and I hung up and called back and the next lady didn't. So there's my solid piece of advice.
Oh, that's great advice, Bird. I think with every supplier or anytime you're fixing an issue, I've called 3, 4, 5 times until I finally said, okay, I'm done. And that person's like, yeah. And they're like, really? I just wasted 2 hours calling back 5 times and then you're able to do your job. I love it. So I agree. I think it always is dependent on the person you're connected with. What are any other thoughts on imposter syndrome at Albert or?
No, honestly, I think we covered it. I really think it's important that you, as a newer advisor, even as a more tenured advisor, understand that only action will cure this. Only by doing something will you start to feel more confident in the thing that needs to get done. So it's something where you just need to wake up every morning. If you've never heard me use the term eat the frog, there's a wonderful book with the same title. And the idea behind it is basically whatever is the thing that you don't want to do it first thing in the morning. Because if not, you spend all day kind of stressing about it, right? We've all had that thing that we don't want to do. And I love the idea. And I think if you find yourself feeling a bit like an imposter, you want to just kind of rush at that, like lean into that experience. And if you're a person that's like, hell no, Bird, I'm turning this off right now. Do it for a short period of time. Say, okay, for the month of May, I am going to, every time I feel uncomfortable, I'm going to lean into it just for this month. And then I'll go back to who I was before. And that's no problem. And test the waters. You don't have to, rip it all off at once. You could dip your toe into trying something that makes you uncomfortable and then see take the space and make sure to take the time and see what it did for you. Be like, oh, okay, that actually wasn't as bad as I thought. Oh, I like that a lot. Oh, when I'm on a video call, you know what I could see? Their face. Like, that was so nice. I could see their facial expressions.
It changes everything. Until you try it, you don't know, right? So get out there and try it, and it could change your entire business.
Yes. I love it.
One more thing I want to ask. Have you ever heard of bicycle face?
Not.
Okay, I'm going to enlighten you. And this is a shout out to Teresa Chu Bermuda. She's actually in our Facebook group. So I posted something about imposter syndrome a few weeks ago. And, she referenced Rashma Sujani. So naturally I'm like, oh, I'm going to go look this up and dive into it. She gave a speech a few years ago at a graduation kind of describing what bicycle face is. And it's linked heavily to imposter syndrome, right? So back 100 years ago when bicycles became a thing, women would get on these bicycles and go to take off. It was all of a sudden they had this freedom. They could get out and go explore, and men didn't like it. They lived in this very, misogynistic society, and it wasn't how it should have been, right? So they started telling them, okay, if you go on this bicycle and you ride, the wind is going to make your hair gray. It's going to deform your face. You're going to have wrinkles. And the woman started believing it, right? And then that was their way to pull them back from riding on this bike and going and living their life and doing it the way they need to. So I think that mentality is what really truly exists today. It just, exists a little differently. Women, men, we all become terrified to be seen trying and seen growing and seen failing. And that's what we need to get out of our minds with imposter syndrome. You're scared to fail. Don't be scared to fail. I think it's more scared for the visibility of having people see you fail. And it's just get out there and do it. Who cares, right? At the end of the day, you have to believe in yourself and not let society tell you, oh, Haley looks like a fool in our Instagram story. Ha ha ha. I don't care. I just sold 1.5 million this year. I'm doing okay, right? So that's, I think, the mentality that we all need to have. So yeah, that's kind of my final thought on imposter syndrome. I really enjoyed this episode. I think a lot of advisors will find it useful.
I love Teresa and I love bicycle face. And it also makes me like that much more of a feminist because I'm like, come on, like you can't give us bicycles, like Jesus.
I know, it's when you think about it, it's mind blowing. I'm telling you.
Times have changed. Luckily, we are empowered women over here owning our own businesses and doing amazing things in the world. All right. I do want to, before we wrap up, give a gentle shout out. We don't have details. Signups are not ready, but I want you to mark it on your calendars because we're very, very excited. Haley and I are going to be doing a live recording of the podcast as well as an all-day conference. It's going to be not a vendor spiel. Sandals is not going to tell you about their new resort. This is going to be an agent workshop where we're going to be really hands-on about working through the marbles in your mouth for all the different things. So, pitching fees and all the different things we need to do well to do our job. So I'm really, really excited. I started outlining the content last week. Can't wait for that. It is on November 6th and it's going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina. So mark your calendars. Friday, November 6th. It's right before Haley's birthday. So we'll have a big celebration for all of us together. I hope you guys can make it. We will keep it very, very cheap because we want to see everybody. We're super excited.
It'll be a fun time. Anytime you can get together a large group of travel advisors and talk shop and just support each other. It's a beautiful thing. I'm really looking forward to it.
Especially motivated ones like the ones that listen to this podcast. Like this is such a fun and amazing community. And you're going to learn a ton. It's going to be a great experience.
Yeah.
All right, guys, until next week.
Till next week.